Welcome everyone to our team's case study presentation of Unilever, Unilever's mission for vitality. First, like to introduce our team, Gustav, Irene, and my name is Teresa. First, let me tell you briefly about Unilever and provide you with a strategic profile from the case study. Unilever was founded in September of 1929 between a merger of a Dutch company that produced margarine named Margarine Uni and a British company that made soap named Lever Brothers, resulting in the name Unilever. Unilever is a multinational organization and today does business in 190 countries with over 400 brand names. Our case study takes place in approximately 2005 with the failed results of the 5-year strategic plan Path to Growth. The prior year, 2004, had some incredibly poor results. The third quarter growth was at a standstill, and the annual growth ended up at an all-time low of 0.9%. Needless to say, the Dutch Investors Association and stockholders gave Unilever's plan a very poor score, and the stakeholders and stockholders were extremely disappointed. Alan Job had been at Unilever for more than 5 years as the chief operating officer. Job is tasked with making a public statement to explain the failed strategy and do some damage control. Job was there to develop a new strategy that led to harmony and focused synergy for the entire organization, starting with the brands Dove and Axe. Job now must address the negative consumer backlash at the organization's campaign for beauty that consumers feel that Unilever is hypocritical. Alan Job is Unilever's young gun and has over the past 5 years operated with one mission statement and allowed and even encouraged the two distinctly different cultures between the Dove and Axe brands. Job is now reflecting on the choices to develop two cultures and is seeing that it is not working as planned and that the failed strategy is a sign that a change is needed. Coupled with this is the shift in the staff attitudes between the two brands and a possible workplace legal complication that could arise. Externally, Unilever is experiencing consumer backlash, reputation, and brand equity is in trouble. Internally, Job will have to make decisions that affect the future culture or cultures if Axe headquarters is relocated. Next up is our somewhere in the Caribbean team member, Gustav, and he's going to discuss situation analysis and industry analysis as per Porter's 5 forces. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Gustavo. I'm part of the Unilever case study team, and today I'm going to be presenting on the situational and industry analysis for the company. And when we look at technological trends, we see this emergence of e-commerce that has kind of become a global phenomenon. Customers and companies alike, they're becoming engaged online through website, through different campaigns, games, and with e-commerce, this engagement isn't just an engagement, but it actually ends up ending with a purchase. And so worldwide, what we see with Dove is that they have a reach of about $500 million, and Axe has a presence in 60 countries. So that is quite the accomplishment. Uh, how many of these customers are engaging in e-commerce? The case study doesn't really say, but we do get some hints on what is happening. And Dove ran a very successful campaign called the Campaign for Real Beauty. And what they did is they aired this advertisement in 2006 at the Super Bowl. And right away after they aired this advertisement, they saw over 7,000 visits to their company website. And this was something that happened within minutes of this ad being aired at the Super Bowl. So they saw a great success with that, great engagement. As far as acts, they have begun to interact with customers online through Mojo Master, which was a game that they launched. And in that game, what they did was they customers or visitors to the website, they could uh, go around and use Axe products to seduce women. And then they also did the axefeather.com campaign, which was also a website. In that one, they toned it down a little bit, and what you would do is you would tickle digital women and kind of, play the seductive game as well. But again, this is kind of in response to this trend of engaging customers online and bringing that first engagement to fruition in actual product purchase. And now moving on to demographic trends. So the case study itself doesn't really give us too much detail onto what is happening demographically, but what we do know from common knowledge is that there are over 7.5 billion people in the world, and this world population is going to continue to grow. So what we're going to have is uh, we're going to have a continuance of a young population that's just going to continue to grow throughout the next years, and throughout time it's just going to continue. And at the same time, we know that the advancements of science and medicine, they have created a scenario where we have people living much longer. So what does that mean? That means that we have an aging population that is still consuming products, that is still a sizable, that is still destined to be sizable in the near future for years to come. From the case study, we do get some glimpses of the demographic audience for both Unilever's star brands, Dove and Axe. For Axe, they started off in South Africa. They were actually named, they were going under the name Ego, and they were notoriously known for targeting a much younger audience, particularly young males between the ages of up to 25. And actually, they have continued that legacy. To this day, one of their ad campaigns, axefeather.com, what they did was they specifically targeted men from the ages of 14 to 25. And that just kind of gives us an insight on what Axe is, what their target audience looks like for them. And again, it's young males. So if we're going to base ourselves from that specific campaign and the history of the company, who are 14 through 25-year-old men? What is happening at that age? Well, we know that from 14 to 18, these young men, they're likely high schoolers. Are going to high school. They probably live with their parents. They're not financially independent just yet. So we have them coming into stores and the parents making the final purchase decisions for them. So uh, again, they're not financially making these decisions on their own. They select a product as it's marketed to them, but we have the parents making these final purchase decisions for them. From 18 to 25, these are likely young men who are still maybe not completely financially independent, who are possibly going to college, who are possibly looking into getting into their very first entry-level job. And what does that mean? That means that that particular customer base is likely running on a tight budget. They're trying to make ends meet, and they are a little bit more budget conscious. So again, uh, a little bit less stable financially than, for example, the demographic audience of Dove, who they proudly serve a broad range of customers, both young all the way to old, as evidenced through their products that help with wrinkles, with cellulite, skincare, facial hair, different shampoos, antiperspirant, deodorant. They have a broad range of products that tailor to uh, a broad range. So what does that mean? That means that the typical customer uh, it can be in any age for Dove. So that brings in a more financially stable crowd as well, who likely is a little bit more better off financially. Uh, the brand has positioned itself as a revolutionary brand that goes against the traditional views of what beauty standards are. Uh, and what that implies is that not only is it a little, not only is the target audience a little more mature, but they've actually taken um a little more profound thought on making that purchase decision and embracing the products and what the brand stands for. If you're going anti-society, if you're coming in as a revolutionary, if you're saying this is who I am, despite what society thinks of me, that means that there's been a little more profound thought in your own identity. Whereas opposed to the typical Axe customer who is likely um, what they're doing is they're going along with the traditional uh, thought of what a male should be. He should be a go-getter. He should be edgy. He should go out and seduce and obtain as much as he can through his own will. Again, we're looking at a little bit more cognitive maturity levels as well as age. Um, a big gap between those two audiences. Unilever benefits from tailoring to both. We have we have a situation where they can tailor to both a young audience and they can tailor to an elderly audience, a little more mature. So they have plenty to choose from and plenty to serve. As far as economic trends go, we know that these two brands, Dove and Axe, they are operating worldwide in different countries. A lot of Dove gets about $1 billion in sales worldwide, whereas is operating in at least 60 countries worldwide. So what does that mean? Uh, that means that these countries are the customers in these countries, they are subject to changes in GDP, inflation, and currency rates. For example, changes, a stronger dollar may mean less purchasing power um, in the local currency. That is good for these two companies because it could potentially reduce their costs, but it's bad for the consumer because they are likely to have to pay a little bit more for the same products that they were originally purchasing. Axe wouldn't have too much of a problem if were there to be issues, negative effects on GDP and inflation rising as far as currency rates because their customers are a little bit more budget conscious anyway. Whereas for Dove, they might see some changes into from their customers to more budget-friendly substitutes. Why is that? Well, beauty products are notoriously known for being more of a commodity. They have their selection as far as wrinkle cream, cellulite products. They might see a little bit more of a fall were there to be a negative uh, negative purchasing power on behalf of the customer. Uh, Again, Unilever benefits from negative action, negative situations like that, negative economic trends. But again, the customer, we might see some shifts into their purchase behavior were that to happen. As far as political, legal trends go, we have to pay attention to these two brands. Dove has most of their leadership. They are notoriously known to be to have mostly males working in their top leadership, and that can potentially be a problem were there to be an issue arising saying, oh, well, this company, they have all these values on equality, yet their leadership isn't diverse. And there could be a lot of issues that come with that. Employees saying that the company, the brand is being a little hypocritical. The case study says that these men, these leaders for Dove, these brand managers, that they are getting inspiration from their daughters, from their wives, but again, they are not women themselves. So, and they're selling women products tailored to that audience. So Unilever as a whole needs to analyze that situation. They need to analyze the brand and determine, if there are going to be any potential pitfalls to that. There's labor laws that protect employees. There's been quite a few cases on sexual harassment and discrimination law that have gone all the way to the Supreme Court. So it's a big issue, particularly in the United States. So that's something that Unilever will need to watch out for, because that's not something that's going to go away. As far as acts, they have Unilever needs to pay a little bit more attention to them. We have situation here where the company can be exposed for sexual harassment suits. Axe has this company culture that embraces the motto of "Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness," and they hold these big fraternity-style sales meetings where they have these Axe Angel young models walking around. Alcohol is being served. The employees, they stay up all the way through the night, and it's just like this big party. Alcohol and models in a place, in a setting where there's these men making big decisions, or there's orientation, that can expose Unilever as a whole. The company needs to pay attention to that culture, because again, that can be a big lawsuit waiting to happen. And this trend towards having a little bit more equality in the workplace, doing away with sexual harassment, doing away with discrimination, these things are not going to go away, and there's going to continue to be restrictions placed throughout the world. Social cultural trends. So we see the rise of, for example, Whole Foods who that sells organic, uh, real foods. And we see that there's been this shift, uh, social culturally, among consumers that are wanting to do their part, um, feeling the need to buy meaningfully. And what that means is that they're more likely now to engage in purchasing behavior that goes along their own values and goes along the betterment of society. So, again, this is something that is likely to not go away as the world catches on, and this continues to be a trend for the betterment of society. Um, we Unilever needs to pay particular attention to the Axe brand when it comes to this regard, because if we are trying to be a better society, if that's the trend that's going on in the world right now, where they are trying to dismantle uh, certain patriarchal concepts, Axe isn't doing a very good job of dismantling that or even addressing that issue. Actually, what that brand is doing is it's empowering those same behaviors that have been going on for years, for centuries, for decades, as far as human history has been around. Um, so we have customers aligning themselves a little bit more towards values, wanting to make purchase decisions from companies that they see as doing their part. Uh, there is no problem with Dove. Actually, we get a beautiful movement going on here where there's funds being created. People are embracing the idea that these models, these magazines, these big um, edited photos are not real, and they don't really speak truth, and they hinder society because they give a false sense of what being real is. So we have customers wanting a little bit more, placing a more emphasis on realness and what it means to be a little bit more humane and address issues in society. Unilever, it can do a little bit more by targeting what is going on with Axe. And again, the brand needs to address this idea uh, of treating women as sexual objects to be won and seduced, which is basically what the Axe brand has positions itself to be. That you wear the product, you use the product, you'll get the girl or you'll get the woman, and you'll essentially win them over. They're an object to be won. As far as global trends go, we see this push around the world towards more democratic values. For example, events in developing countries longing for democracy. This is likely to continue as uh, customers around the world are looking uh, towards higher education that will show and bring to light the issues that they're facing, have them become more aware, have them wanting to see what possible solutions they can bring to the table in their particular countries. In both the developed and undeveloped countries, um, there's always been this um, there's always been this push towards changing the status quo, towards challenging traditional roles. Throughout the world, we've seen this tendency towards uh, uh, patriarchy, towards um, having specific gender roles for both sexes or different genders. And what this, as the world becomes more literate, as the world engages more in higher education, these issues are going to be brought more to light, and they're going to be, hopefully, uh, people around the world will start to address and find solutions for these. About half of the sales of the 3 billion in sales from Dove in 2005 came from customers outside the US and around the world. The implication is that there's going to be a continued growing trend for customers to follow and embrace brands that um, that are known to be a little more democratic and hold democratic values, as is the case with Dove. The leadership teams, they hold meetings where they very democratic in style, where everyone takes a turn and they make decisions based on a consensus, a value in promoting more equality throughout the company. This is likely to continue, and as more developing countries gain more industry, have a more educated populace, uh, more democratic values are going to continue to um, have more emphasis in those countries. Physical environmental trends. There's an increased value and importance on keeping and ensuring that the planet uh, has is more safe and healthy. We have governments across the world that are looking to find solutions to becoming a little bit more green, a little more environmentally safe, push towards more renewable energy. And this is all in the efforts um, to leave a world behind, a planet that is sustainable for the generations to come. This trend towards doing and embracing, uh, making purchasing behaviors and embracing companies that have that, take that into consideration, and the third bottom line, uh, that's likely here to stay for the years to come. So it's for the benefit of Unilever to engage these customers by ensuring that their products from both Axe and Dove are not products that are likely to harm the environment and that are likely to uh, be environmentally friendly. So it's in the benefit of the company overall to continue to uh, go along with this physical environmental trend that again is here to stay. And that brings us to industry rivalry. So we do not see a direct competitor with Unilever. Unilever in the case study doesn't specifically mention a direct competitor, but we do see direct competitors to the two-star brands Dove and Axe. So both of these main competitors are from the UK, so known as Caress and Degree. Both of these have run have run an anti-campaign and positioned themselves as the alternative in uh, in culture and everything that the original company stands for. And they've been pretty successful with this. So what does this mean? Caress positioning themselves as anti-Dove means that Caress is embracing femininity, is embracing Dove running a campaign on real beauty and imperfections, and models that aren't wearing makeup, that have curves, that aren't your typical model, that show their freckles, that show imperfections. Again, Caress is not doing that. They're saying we are going to run a campaign that shows women that they can be beautiful, that they are feminine, and that they should strive to be feminine. And they've been finding success with that. Axe versus Degree. Degree saying, hey, we're not that frat. We don't have that frat culture. We are tailoring to, and in the case study it says, we are tailoring to Axe customers all grown up. So they're targeting a little bit more mature audience, positioning themselves as not being boys, but as being men. And again, these two UK companies have had great success as just positioning themselves as rivals to the original US companies. There is a very real threat of new entrants. It's given the industry, facial care, of antiperspirant, of beauty products. These are industries that are highly competitive. They have some of the biggest market share in the world. And they are, because there's so many products out there, there's so many players, it's relatively easy to gain entrance to these new to these industries. And so what we have is because there's more players, that means that there's very little to no barriers to coming into these industries. So Dove and Axe, they are particularly vulnerable to this threat of having new competition all the time, and having them run successful campaigns that just, all they have to do is say, I am not Dove and I am not Axe. And they, as in the case as the two UK companies, they can be successful. So that is something to watch out for. At the same time, there is Unilever as a whole. They are a pretty sizable company. Again, they are comprised of more than 400 brands throughout the world. The company itself, the parent company itself, they are not so easily challenged because of their size and because of the broad portfolio that they have. So we have a situation where Unilever is trying to merge these two seemingly polarized stark brands, who look like they are polar opposites to each other. In many ways, they are. But if Unilever can run a successful mission statement campaign where it unites all of its brands under this big umbrella mission statement and this unity, then it's a force to be reckoned with, because there's no direct competition towards Unilever, at least not known, and due to its size and sheer capital, just this massive capital that they have, it's this large presence, loyalty to the brands already. It can make it very difficult for direct competitors to challenge its position in the marketplace. So that is something that Unilever needs to contemplate. But picking Dove and Axe apart themselves, that is something that can be done. Again, because of the industries that they are involved in and the sheer number of competitors in the marketplace. threat of substitutes, it remains a factor. Um, Again, degree and caress, they're evidence of this. They can, uh, their rise, their rise and success proves that you, like as mentioned previously, you can just run an anti-Dove and anti-Axe campaign and be successful. So, what does that mean? Degree and caress, they don't have to necessarily be revolutionizing. Uh, the vast amount of the world is there's this status quo of adhering to traditional values. That is the norm. So these two UK companies, they could just tailor to that, and they are going to be okay. Whereas in the case of the Dove, for example, they are going anti uh, what is what has been normal for decades and centuries. So they're having to be a little bit more revolutionizing, whereas Degree and Caress, they don't have to do that much. They could just go with the flow, um, and be successful. Their success is evidence of that threat of being targeted and being substituted by the competition. At the same time, these two companies, because of their positioning, they can just play the cultural values from Dove and uh, Axe against them and expose the two brands as being hypocritical, and also directly attacking Unilever, saying how can a parent company like this have two such polar opposite brands, and benefit from them and profit from them, um, and yet claim to be this um, revolutionary or this benefit for humanity company, um, and in essence smear the parent company. They can also simply target the brand managers at Dove, who are largely male, yet claim to know what is best for their target audience, which is women, based on their interactions with women within their lives, their daughters, their wives. So it's these companies can exploit uh, that and say, hey, you really don't know. You really don't know because you're not a woman. And then they can target the company as really not being diverse enough and just run an anti campaign and be successful. Power suppliers. So, given that the nature of the two uh, uh, the industries that both Dove and Axe are involved in, um, because there's so many players, so much competition. What that implies is that because there's so many players, there has to be many suppliers trying to make deals with these parent companies, with these brands, these warehouses, these manufacturers of these products who want to strike up deals. So uh, the field shows that there's a very low bargaining position from suppliers, um, which is good for Dove and Axe and Unilever as a whole, because they can leverage that to their benefit and reduce costs. Whereas when we talk about the power of buyers, uh, given these trends, these social, cultural, and physical, environmental trends, they're likely to continue. Um, we can say that they have a higher bargaining power. Uh, Again, environmentally conscious. You know, the world is a limited place, to live in. Resources are limited across the globe. So those factors show that that trend is likely to continue to go forward and catch on. And that places the buyer in a unique position where they can simply just choose to buy along their own values and associate themselves with companies that adhere to those values and do good for humanity, do good for the environment, and do good for society as a whole. Companies will have to adapt to that. In, in the case of Unilever, they will have to make sure that all of their brands are adhering to the demands of these new customers.
Hello, my name is Irene, and first off, I would like to thank Gustavo for his insight. I would like to continue this presentation by going over the internal analysis of Unilever. We'll start off by reviewing the tangible resources a company has. Two of their most successful brands have been Dove and Axe. Although Unilever has not been able to reach their profit goals set by their growth strategy, both brands have managed to bring positive cash flows into the company. Also, due to the high percentage of sales Axe has brought into Unilever, they've been also been able to brainstorm and think about expanding their current product selection. Unilever has also had the ability to have their offices together in the same location, which also creates a convenience in order for them to set meetings in a shorter time notice. Some intangible resources Unilever has is that both Axe and Dove are able to exercise their marketing strategies that best fit their target consumer. The Human Resource Department at Unilever needs to analyze and improve the working environment of Axe, since some employees have brought up to their attention that they would like to work for Dove instead of Axe due to their current working conditions. Third is that Dove has a strong marketing campaign in which they're able to portray that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, and this helps improve the self esteem of their female consumers. Moving on to the value chain analysis, both Axe and Dove have become known hygiene brands for Unilever's brand collection. They've also have kept positive revenue for their shareholders for Unilever, which will maintain their status in the company. Axe product performance also has included their ability to provide their product in an affordable price and also availability at stores such as Walmart and CVS. Dove products also have been able to be found in these convenience stores and made it possible for consumers to obtain while they're doing other shopping such as groceries and cleaning supplies. Both Axe and Dove consumers choose to buy their products rather than their competitors due to the quality of the product and the mission of the company in which they are being marketed as. For the functional analysis of Unilever, they need to focus on creating a mission statement that will demonstrate their company's values and goals and providing high quality consumer goods that will meet the needs of their consumers. The working environments of both Dove and Axe need to be evaluated and improved. The working environment should not rely on the brand's motto, but should be gender neutral and focus on the needs of the consumer. The employees should feel respected in either working environment, whether they're working for Dove or for Axe. It should still be the same.
Next up, our team has decided to present the case questions and our responses at this time. The first question is, should Axe offices move? No, the Axe offices should not move. The physical locations divided will only create a further gap and division of the workforce, further enabling the Axe toxic work environment. Isolation of offices will not bring unity to the Axe and Duff brands under one mission statement. It would only prove to further divide them. Second question, how can the Dove and Axe brands be unified under Unilever's umbrella mission statement? The mission statement, adding vitality to life, says everything to everyone. The Dove and Axe brands' workforce and working environments internally need to be aligned and unified into one. Job needs to start by rebuilding the internal workplace policies to put the office etiquette back into the Axe environment. The case study reflects the noticeable change in staff moving from Axe to Dove, implying Dove has an established acceptable behavior on the same page as the campaign for beauty, and the Axe brand caters to the male office staff and the male consumer ego and not to the campaign. These brands, Dove and Axe, represent male and female consumers, each unique, each diverse, not two alike, but all seeking to improve their lives, their looks, and bringing out the beauty in everyone. And third, is consistency between brand messages necessary? Provide one example to support your response. Yes, consistency between the brand messages is necessary to have a focused synergy. One mission statement cannot support two cultures that are at opposite ends of the spectrum. The case study reflects a day and night difference in the staffing behaviors in the working environments between Dove and Axe. These differences have started spilling over, becoming visible to the consumers and creating negative public outrage. Consumer negativity spreads instantly in today's market, coupled with the inconsistent messaging can only bring harm to the brands and potentially to the organization. Unilever is a multinational organization with few competitors. Those competitors are PepsiCo, Nestle, Johnson & Johnson, and Colgate-Palmolive. For the comparison, we have chosen Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson has a wide range of consumer products, similar to Unilever, while operating as a multinational organization. Johnson & Johnson has one mission statement that has been renamed the Johnson & Johnson Credo. This credo unifies all aspects of the company and has been the culture at J&J for over 78 years. Johnson & Johnson is a household name, well established, and the consumer products are consistent in their messaging with other Johnson & Johnson products. And to the consumer, quality and value at a reasonable price. Coupled with this, the organization is socially and economically responsible to its employees, other stakeholders, shareholders, the environment, and communities around the globe. So consistent message is unified, and Unilever needs to unify the Dove and the Axe brands in order to establish that.
Moving on to strategy formulation. The first strategy our group has suggested for Unilever is to start by revising their existing marketing campaigns for both their Axe and Dove brands to ensure the message is complementing each other. For example, Axe needs to create a message that says women can be attracted from different body shapes or color of skin. And Dove could continue their marketing campaigns as well to apply to all women, as well as to encourage to buy products for their self-care. The second strategy that we have come up with is by continuing to allow Axe and Dove market their brand individually. Although there has already been backlash for the current vision of the brand, Axe and Dove would continue to sell their product to their target market and be known by their brand individually instead of Unilever as a whole company. Unilever would possibly allow Axe to move locations to Soho and would feel more independent to market their brand separate from the rest of the company. Unilever could make an agreement with Axe that they could remain separate. However, they would still continue to bring in positive cash flows to the company. The third strategy would be by creating a new universal mission statement of vitality. Unilever could enforce each of their brands to follow the rules to reach the new visions of the company and become known as the company that provides high quality hygiene products instead of becoming known individually per brand. Similar to Johnson & Johnson, how they have a universal mission statement, Unilever has the potential and resources to have become known as a company instead of each of their brands. Unilever management will also have to manage each closer the operations of their brands and provide different products for each type of consumer need. Each brand will need to be held accountable for their actions and ensure they are following the rules to build a reputation for Unilever to compete with its industry rivals. Moving on to the action plan. Unilever will have to set up weekly meetings with both Axe and Dove brands and make sure they are revising their existing marketing plans. They will have to complement each other and not contradict the overall image of the company. By setting weekly meetings with managers from both brands, Unilever will ensure both Axe and Dove are making progress towards becoming a unified brand collection that continues to provide high quality products for their consumers. This will also encourage managers to provide employees to provide each other feedback. That way they can work together and improve company reputation. In conclusion, although the path to growth strategy for Unilever has not been successful, the financial performance of both Axe and Dove and their many other brands has been successful, and it will continue to grow as long as they work together to perform a unique message for their consumers. Also, the working environments do not need to match the marketing campaign of the brand. They need to continue to be respectful for each other and provide a safe working environment in which each employee will feel safe to come back to work every day. Unilever financially has been stable and will continue to grow for their brands unless they agree to work together to keep their target markets and help each other improve their marketing strategies. Thank you.